gone silent, except for me. This is a thing I do with my everything. Because I'm being filmed, I'm going to say this, otherwise I wouldn't say this, but I'm not a rabbi hasmicha. I'm following the halacha basically more or less based on this book, El Har from Rapelli. It's one of the classic books in the field in the area, and he gives this entire halachic rundown. So if anyone has any halachic questions or halachic ramifications, feel free to consult. It's not feel free, but you should consult with your regular local Orthodox rabbi. But okay, I have a full-length two-part presentation which I give about the Beit HaMikdash. It's titled "Who Needs the Beit HaMikdash?" We're not going to do the full thing. I think you heard it, right? Last year.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
You were there last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not going to do the whole thing, but I was inspired by Yonatan, by one other person. They said they'd like to go, but they'd like someone to take them the first time. So that inspired me. I thought I'm going to go soon, so I'll grab Yonatan for the people, whoever wants, who's never been, and I'll just give I won't say an in-depth, complete introduction to the whole field because that's hours, but I'll just talk a bit about going up and the experience of going up. So we're going to talk about two things mostly. One is how to prepare, and two is what to expect when we're on Har HaBayit itself. Okay, so firstly, just to know what we're going to be seeing, this is a picture of Har HaBayit looking from the south northwards. You can see this area in shade, that's Rechavat HaKotel. So when it's there, it looks immense, but it's actually pretty small compared to the entire area of Har HaBayit. It's about 57 meters long. The whole wall is almost half a kilometer. So it's about an eighth of the length of the wall. Okay, here's a picture from above. This will just give you a bit of perspective. This red line here is Rechavat HaKotel. Okay, there's several gates on the west. This is pretty much north, south, east, west. Here's Har HaMugrabim, that's where we come in. It's basically just to the right of the women's section and overlooking the women's section. Right, this is the Rechavah. We come in here. The main things that we see, just so you'll know what's going on, is in the southern end is the mosque, is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. In the middle, the gray area is a raised ramp, a raised platform, and that's where the Dome of the Rock sits. Okay, and Shar Rachamim is another famous area that you can see from the inside. That's on the east wall, a bit to the north. Okay, and just to get your bearings, we said that's the Kotel. The Kotel HaKatan is a bit farther north, also on the west wall. When we do the circle, we actually pass it from the inside. And the western wall tunnel, sometimes people ask me, where do you go? So basically you walk along the western wall northwards, but outside Har HaBayit. So you're on the west side of the western wall. It's called by the western wall because it's the western wall of the platform, right? Not because when we stand here, it's actually to the east of us, but it's the western wall of the platform, so therefore it's the western side. So when you're in the tunnels, you're to the west of that. Okay, here's a picture again with a bit more like 3D, so it's a bit easier to see what's going on. So again, you have the whole platform, which sits about 500 meters north-south and about 280 to 300 meters east-west. In the middle is the raised platform with Kippah HaSela. That's the area that we stay off. To the south is you pass the mosque. There's the famous underground area they dug out and they founded a new mosque that's in the southeast corner. It's called Solomon's Stables, and that they basically took over and turned into a mosque, and they dug a big pit just in front of it with an entrance and exit. Okay, well, just to give some background, people say, how can we go, where can we go? So this I pulled out of my slide, out of my presentations, even though I'm not going to go into depth, but this I will show. So we talk about Aliyah Har HaBayit in the background to where we're allowed to go or not allowed to go. So it starts when the Jews were camping in the desert. Right, Hashem gives them a commandment that they had to separate into three different areas. There was the Machaneh Shechina, right, the area where the Mishkan, the camp of the Mishkan. There was the Machaneh of the Leviim, which was around that, and the Machaneh of Israel. So we see in the picture, that's the Machaneh Shechina right in the middle where the Mishkan is. The Machaneh Leviim is the green area that was around there. And Machaneh Yisrael is the yellow area where all the Jews camped. And different people with different levels of Tumah couldn't go into different camps. So the pasuk says that anyone who was mitzorah, which we don't have today, anyone has, we translate today as lepers, but we don't have leprosy today, couldn't go into Machne Israel. They were kicked out of the yellow area, right? Anyone who was Zav, Zavan, Nida, Yoledet, Balkari. So in terms today, Zav, Zava we don't really have, but we have Nida, anyone who's a woman who's given birth, a woman who's been menstruating, a man who's had a seminal emission. They can't go into the green area. Okay, and Tmei Met, someone who has come in contact with the dead body, can't go into the Machane Shechina, which is the Mishkan, which is the red area. Now, normally you think that Tumat Met is the most severe, it's the most chamur, but here actually it's not, because Tmei Met can go into the green area, but he cannot go into the red area. On the other hand, Zav, Zavan, Nida, Yoledet, Balkari are not allowed into the green area until they tov on a mikvah and they purify themselves from the tumah. So in this case, Tmei Met is more kal, is more
lenient,
and Zav, Zavan, Nida, Yoledet are more stringent. Is that clear at that point? Okay, and that's the key of understanding where we go today. So just remember, the yellow we won't see because the yellow is not relevant for us, but we're going to see in a minute the red and the green and how it maps onto Har HaBayit. Okay, so we take a picture of the Beit HaMikdash that it looked. The same camps, the same levels of Kedusha that applied in the desert also applied to Har HaBayit. So the area of the Azara, which is the inner part, was Machane Shechina, which means again, Tmei Met can't go in there. Chazal added an Isur Drabanan around the whole area called the Chel. That's the dotted red line. So that's a Isur Midrabanan for anyone who's Tmei Met to go in. Okay. And around that, there's the area of the original Har HaBayit and Mekudash, which is 500 amot on 500 amot. Amot is about a half meter, so it's about 250 square meters. And that's the original area, which was Mekudash, which was sanctified. And that is the area where Zav, Zavat, Nidai, and are not allowed to go in. Okay, and then there's the extension of Har HaBayit, which is a Herodian extension. We said it's about the sanctified area is about 250 square meters. Today, Har HaBayit is about 500 meters. We said north-south. North-south is this way. It's about 500 meters, so it's about twice the size. Okay, and we talk about how does that map to what we see today. So if we have here a picture of the same picture we saw before of Har HaBayit, and we juxtapose on it the original sanctified area of the Har HaBayit and the original Beit HaMikdash. Okay, so the area in the shade is the area which is the Machane Shechina Midoraita, and that's the area where someone who's Tmei Met can't go in, because we're all Tmei Met today. Then we can't go in. But if you notice, it's only a small piece of the mount. It's about 5% of the mount. Okay, if you add on the area which is a Sur Midrabanan, then that adds about another 5%. Okay, but actually it's not clear. Well, I'll say that in a minute. I'll say it now. There's a question when we talk about the halachics behind it. There's a question if the whole kedusha applies or not. In other words, according to there's a machloket in the Rishonim. There's a I can say it's in Hebrew, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a machloket in the Rishonim whether the kedusha applies or not. So we're machmir to say that the kedusha applies. We follow the Rambam, and therefore we're careful not to go in the area which is Sur Midoraita. According to the area which is extension Midrabanan, there's an additional machloket that says that even when the Kedusha Doraita applies, in the Churban does the Kedusha Midrabanan apply. In other words, it's considered, according to some opinions, an extension, but only when the Mikdash is built. When the Mikdash is not built, when it's destroyed, there's no additional extension Midrabanan. So we're also machmir on that. And we say that most people are. I know people who aren't, but most people are machmir on that as well, and we try to avoid both areas. Okay? The next area, which is the original sanctified Har HaBayit, which is the original 500 square amot, so that people can't go in unless they've dunked in a mikvah. But people that have gone to a mikvah and prepared properly are allowed to go in. So today we can go in that area. The rest of Har HaBayit has no special kedusha. It's like the rest of Yerushalayim. It's like walking around at the Kotel. But b'cholzot, despite that, we're machmir, and most people don't go up at all unless they've also dunked in a mikvah. So we're being machmir on top of being machmir on top of machmir. So people who think that we're being mekel, that's not accurate. The reason that they say we're being mekel is because the location of the Beit HaMikdash and Har HaBayit that we put it is not universally accepted. There are some people in academia who hold that it's not there. And there are many, like the Rabbanim from the camp that are against, say that even if there's archaeological proofs, historical proofs, rabbinic proofs, it's not good enough. Because we can't point and say, we see here was the Beit HaMikdash. So they don't want to rely on any proofs, they just want to rely on Masoret. Masoret is from rabbi to his student, to student, to student, to student, to student. We don't have that because for big parts of the time, Jews were not allowed in Yerushalayim, were not allowed Har HaBayit. So there's no one who can come and say, yes, this spot is mutar and it's not, so therefore there's no unbroken Masoret. So without unbroken Masoret, they say we don't want to rely on it. We don't want to rely on anything, and therefore we don't necessarily accept that this is the correct spot, in which case it could be anywhere in Har HaBayit, and we want to be machmir. But once we take the archaeological, the historical, and the rabbinic traditions that we have into account, and like I said, the vast majority of people, both in the rabbinic world and the academic world, come to the same conclusion that the rock under the dome of the rock is the Kodesh Kodashim, and then they build a Beit HaMikdash around that. So once you assume that, then we're very machmir about where we go and where we don't go. Okay, by the way, this isn't when I do my presentation, I'm usually not good with questions, but this isn't a presentation, this is a discussion. So feel free to stop, ask. Okay, so the point is it's permissible to go to about 90% of Har HaBayit today. It's actually a disservice because when people discuss the question of is it mutar or asur to go to Har HaBayit, it's clear that it's mutar. It's among the Rishonim, there's no machloket across the board. All the Rishonim say mutar to go to Har HaBayit. So the question isn't a fair question because the way you ask the question predicts the answer. A fair way to ask the question is where can you go on Har HaBayit and under what conditions? That would be a fair way to ask. But that's not what people do. They say mutar asur. Because when you say mutar asur, you're insinuating if it's asur, you can't go. So what do? You know, Tula comes and, well, if it's asur now, why is it asur Mashiach comes? So it's basically, it's pushing off our responsibility and dumping it on someone else. It's not our problem, it's God's problem, because the Mashiach, the Beit HaMikdash will fall from the sky. Or it's not our problem, it's Mashiach's problem, because he'll build the Beit HaMikdash. But it's not something that we as the Jewish people have to deal with. And we know, looking historically at how the Geulah unfolded, that's not how it unfolded. I say what's going on now with Har HaBayit is very similar to what happened with the whole attitude to Israel 150 years ago. People sat in Europe and they lived their lives and they said, yeah, Israel, it's important, but not for now. One day it'll be important. Mashiach will come. God will send a huge eagle. We'll load on the sofa on the fridge and the TV set on the eagle. They'll fly us to Israel. But for now, we're living our real lives here in Europe. And we saw that's not the way the Geulah unfolded. The way the Geulah unfolded was through the actions of people. And that's how God wants things to be. He wants that people should be active partners in bringing about the redemption. And the same thing with Har HaBayit. So by people just pushing it off, they're basically just avoiding and evading responsibility. Okay, now we're going to get into the top list. So firstly, the main thing to do to prepare for Zav Zavani Dayoledet, Balkari, is to go to a mikvah. Okay, there's no women here. We'll talk a little bit about women. There's no women here. We're not going to go into details. Are you here or are you there? Okay, we only have chopped liver. We don't have any real women. So it's important to emphasize, firstly, that it's a mitzvah, it's not a minhag. Unfortunately, most men's mikvot in Yerushalayim are not at the standard which is required to be a tefillah d'oraita. Because when men go to mikvah, they go for minhag, they go for Shoshana, Yom Kippur, or sometimes some people go every day, every week. But it's not the same level of chiyuv as, say, women when women go when they're nidah, because then they have a chiyuv d'oraita to go. So therefore, the Rabbanut that builds and maintains the mikvahs doesn't keep the men's mikvahs the same standard as the women's mikvahs. So it's important to find a mikvah which is either used for kelim, because that's also a mikvah d'oraita, or for women. It's not easy to get a clear answer. I'm on a mailing list with a lot of Mikdash people. It's been a big back and forth about the mikvah and shtiblach. Is it okay? Is it not okay? I think this time, because I'm telling you guys to go and I'm taking you guys, it's not my responsibility, so I'm going to go find a better mikvah. I'm looking at one in Piskat Zev or one in Kiryat Moshe. So when we go, whoever wants, I'm happy to take them in my car and we'll go to the mikvah there. Those mikvahs are meant to be on a higher standard, the same standard as mikvah for women. That's not to say the mikveh here is not kosher mid'oraita. It's just to say that it's questionable and it depends who you ask, and nobody really knows the answer.
Even the Hasidim don't have mikvahs on the high standards.
They're on a high sanitary standard, some of them, but in terms of the halachic standards, they're not on the same standard.
So how do you know what's high standard or not? How do you know?
How do you know? There's no research that was done. It's just to ask the people in charge. So ask the guy in charge in Shibboleth. And also the people themselves won't necessarily give you a straight answer for various reasons. One is they might be against going to Har HaBayit. Two is, like everything else in halacha, there's layers of chumrah and chumrah and chumrah and chumrah. So when they build a woman's mikvah, they try and include lots of chumrah. But the question is it kosher mid'oraita or is it not kosher mid'oraita? They don't have to resolve that issue because they try and build, like I said, the women's issues to all the standard, all the highest levels of all the chumrot. But it doesn't mean the men's isn't kosher. It might be, it might not be. And there's lots of, like in everything else in halacha, there's lots of different machlakot and what you need, what you don't need. Who are you choshesh to this rishon? You choshesh to that de'ah. Okay, so like I said, it's important to find a mikvah which is kosher. That's the most important thing. In terms of how to prepare, so I brought my kit with me. So firstly, just to show one. Firstly, soap and shampoo. Firstly, you prepare the night before. Okay? The idea is, maybe I'll go back a step. With men are choshesh to either zav, which is some sort of non-normal seminal emission. We say halacha l'maaseh, unless someone had a medical problem, they don't need to be choshesh. If someone wants to be choshesh, they're allowed to. And then dunking in a mikvah is not good enough. They need to go to a ma'ayan. Okay? But if there's no halachic reason, that someone didn't have some sort of medical problem, then it's not necessary and a mikvah is sufficient. Okay? So presumably everyone here has, male adults, needs to go to a mikvah. Okay. When people, I'll do with the kit. So what you do is you prepare the night before. So we're going to go through our kits. If you want to, okay. Firstly, soap and shampoo. Okay, it's important to be clean, right? It's pretty much preparing like women do. There's some differences that I'll mention. Firstly, you clean yourself really well. Nails are an issue. Have the nails clean up the nails, cut the nails, also the toenails. People are very makpid on they're called the cuticles, to clean out and cut them so you're nice and neat. Any loose folds of skin to cut. It's been recommended to me, don't pull, because when you pull, you can pull off a lot of skin, but cut. Okay, so tool number 2, nail clipper for nails and bits of loose skin. Here, I always have here bits of loose skin. Scabs. The rule of scabs is basically soften them in water. That's why women like baths, right? Soften them in water. And if it's a scab, which is you need because it's protecting something, then obviously don't peel it off. But if it's a scab which is 3 months old and just still there, and you can peel it off and it won't bother anything, you can peel it off. Dirt, if someone works in painting, they're covered with paint, but it's stuck to their skin, that doesn't really count. Dandruff, whatever people can get out. Lice, people have lice, whatever they can get out. I find with me a problem is always hard skin on my feet. So next is, what do you call this? A pumice stone? Hila, what do you call this? Okay, the idea is have your feet sit in the bath. Sometimes people get maybe a bit of scaly between their fingers or between their toes. To soften up the skin and then rub off whatever will come off with the pumice stone. Okay, so you guys should make sure you own all these things and can use it. Dental floss, you're not meant to have things between your teeth. Things between your teeth are considered chatzitza. So brush teeth well, okay, and floss between the teeth. Clean out any bodily orifices. So ears, ears with Q-tips. Behind your ears, eyes, nose, clean out very well. And last but not least, there's something called chafifa, which is basically what I usually do is I take a good bath or shower the night before. Like I said, do all the preparation, and then the morning of, just before I go, usually in the mikvah, I take again another quick shower. And there's something which is in halachas called chafifa. It's basically you just take a shower with soap and water, and you go through. I usually use a lice comb because it's fine. go through all body hair, underarms, pubic hair, head. Just make sure there's no knots, because a knot can be considered a chatzitza. Okay, so you don't want to share this with your friends. Okay, but it's worth having. Okay. Now I want to just emphasize that going to mikvah is very appropriate for people that are OCD and they think, oh my God, it's not good enough. They can spend hours and hours and hours, and it doesn't have to be 110%. It has to be good enough. I remember the first time I went, I was worried about a bit of skin. I ended up like peeling off like a lot of skin, and afterwards I got infected. Midin Torah, it says what's considered a chatzitza is something which covers the majority of the body and the person is makpid on, he cares about. That's Midin Torah. So most people do not have things that cover the majority of the body and they care, they want to remove it. Midrabanan, they add either something which this person is makpid on or something which covers the majority of the body. And therefore, we talk about all these little things, even minute things, minute bits of skin. They're, like I said, folds or flaps of skin, minute bits. But that's not Midin Torah. So if a person does as good a job as they can do, but they don't have to feel bad, and they feel, oh my God. I remember the first time for the mikvah, I felt, oh my God, I didn't do it right, I didn't do it well enough, I'm still tameh, I still have chatzitzot, what have I done? I should mention the idea ideologically with going to mikvah is you're removing all the chatzitzot, which is anything external, and you're reconnecting with the primordial waters. I talk about the waters of the Rav Aryeh Kaplan wrote a very nice booklet called Waters of Eden, which is basically the mikvah represents returning to our roots and reconnecting with our roots at the beginning of time with humanity and purifying ourselves and just getting rid of all the sludge and garbage we picked up along the way and becoming pure again. Okay, now people who are tameh and are intending to go to Har HaBayit should say a bracha before they dunk, because again, it's a tefillah d'oraita, it's not rabbanan. So the bracha is asher kitshanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al ha-tefillah. There's two ways to do it. Okay, and part of it depends on what you want to do, and part depends on the mikvah where you go. One way to do it is you actually go in the water, you have a kippah with you, you dunk once, that's just to get ready, and then you put on a kippah, you cross your arms so that there's a break between your head and your lower body, and like your lower body's in the water and your upper body's out of the water, you keep on your head and you say the bracha. That if there are other naked people around, or if the mikvah room is together with the shower, then you can't do that. A second thing to do, which is what I usually do, is I get ready. So I have the shower and I do the chafifah with the comb and I get ready. And then just before I go in, I put on a robe or I put on some clothes, I put on my kippah. I say the bracha outside. Again, it has to be in a place where there's no naked men, so it can't be in the changing room or the shower. Changing room if there are men there, or it can't be in the shower room. So I usually try and go to the entrance. I say the bracha and then I quickly take off the robe and go in the mikvah. Okay, I don't remember midoraita how many times you have to dunk, but the minhag is to dunk 7 times. The way people dunk, you don't hold your eyes tightly closed, you don't hold your mouth tightly closed. They don't need to be overly open, but they don't need to be tightly closed. When you dunk, sort of crouch. You don't have to pick up your feet, but usually I try and pick up my feet. People with hair, there's always the issue with women, they need someone watching them to make sure all their hair is underwater. So if a man has long hair, he has the same issue. But most men have very short hair, if any, so therefore they don't have a problem, and they just make sure their head is underwater. And especially if they're doing it 7 times, and good chances are pretty good they've done it at least once right. Okay, I mentioned that if someone is choshesh to being a zav, that they have to go to a ma'ayan. A friend of mine used to go to the ma'ayan in Motza, but apparently they destroyed it when they built the new road, so I don't know where there's a man. Maybe I don't know if Lifta's good, but if anyone is choshesh and they want to go to a ma'ayan, let me know and I'll let it. I'm on a mailing list. I'll ask on the mailing list where there's a ma'ayan. Children, boys who are underage, who have not reached puberty, and also young girls do not need to go to mikvah. Okay, I wrote here as a legal disclaimer. Before going, review all the laws with a rabbi who knows what he's talking about, not with me. I've basically gone through the list that I learned, but you can always check online. I'm sure you can find lists of halachot for going in a mikvah before going to Har HaBayit. Okay, any questions, issues till now? Okay, so just again, remember what I was finding is to remember, like, clean my belly button, behind my ears, teeth, ears, nose. That's what ends up taking the time for me. Fingernails, toenails. It should take, I'm guessing, in terms of time, maybe not the first time when people are excited about it, but it shouldn't take more than an hour to prepare.
It's longer than I thought.
What?
I know, it's a long time.
No, it shouldn't take more. I don't know. Okay, now practical details about the actual Aliyah. Okay, so firstly, there's different cell phones of people who arrange guides. I mean, if let's say I'm going Thursday morning early, and you're all welcome to come with me. If you want to go with someone else, I won't be insulted. I can see if I can arrange it, or if it's not a good time, I'll see if I can arrange a guide for you. It's recommended to call. They have a police station, and they tell the day before if Har HaBayit has been closed. Promise we'll talk a bit more about the politics later, but often it'll be closed in the morning and people won't know. There's a guy here who wants to bring his mother-in-law from Ranana, so I'm going to glean at her. Can I have a paper and a pen, please? I just want to make sure to write him a note, make sure that they realize that there's a chance they won't get up and that she will have come for naught. But we'll talk about that a bit more in the call. So as we said, so the idea is to prepare the night before. Now in the mikvah, when you come to the mikvah, the men is they go in usually in the morning very early. The mikvahs for men are open from 5 o'clock in the morning. Make sure to bring cash with you. Mikvah costs these days anywhere between 7 and 12 shekels, so bring change when you go. Women usually have to go a night or two earlier for various halachic reasons. Sometimes they can go the night before.
I thought you had to go to the mikvah the day that you would send Har HaBayit. That's what Rabbi Richmond told me at least.
Yes, there is so as I said, men go in the morning before they go up.
Right.
The reason is they're choshesh. What if a man has his bal keri after he goes to mikvah? So they try and do it as close as possible to the actual Aliyah.
Right.
Okay? For women, it's generally a bit more predictable that way, so they can go a little bit before. And there's a question if they're choshesh for Zava, and the question is if they're choshesh for Zava, do they need what's called Harev Shemesh, which means they need to wait an extra day. So if you're choshesh to Zava and you hold that women need that Zava need Harev Shemesh, then they can't go to mikvah the night before. They have to go a night earlier. So visiting hours. So hours for non-Muslims are limited. There's about 4 hours in the morning and an extra hour in the afternoon. I have the hours written here. So we're going in summertime, so it's 7:30 to 11 in the morning and 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon. Other times, Muslim holidays limited. In winter, the hours are slightly shorter. Sorry?
1:30 to
1:30 to 2:30. In winter, it's an hour less. It's 7:30 to 10 and 12:30 to 1:30. And often in some Muslim holidays, it's closed. Okay, now where do we meet? Do y'all know where to meet? No? Okay. So I'll go back to picture and I'll show you. Here. We're going back all the way to the beginning. Okay.
Or okay, meet at the entrance to Al-Aqsa.
You know what? It's not even on this map. Okay.